Alright guys, CDL here, and today I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And after many teams had disappointing results at Major 3 in Toronto, lots of them might well be considering some changes ahead of the Major 4 qualifiers. They've got a couple of weeks to figure things out if they want to try and become a championship contender or try and secure their spot at the World Championship entirely in that top 8 placing. Could Clayster be a part of any of their plans? Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Really does help out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. First of all, a couple of words on Doug Centre Martin, the passion pit where it all begins. Thought this is a phenomenal shot from this past weekend. Just kind of, well, seeing the boys, I think that's actually Doug right there, playing this particular matchup. I guess this is the Ultra Academy that they played at some point or another. But yeah, thought this was good from Centre as well. He was pretty happy, especially, well, after beating the team that Clayster had, because effectively, well, Clayster stole his team away from him, and he ends up beating them, of course, at the event as well. Like, as he says, it better be on the mainstream, though, next time around, because our Periscopes are pulling in bigger numbers than the COD League matches. I'm not sure if Periscope exists anymore, if there's other services that people use nowadays, but I used to have a really good time watching the kind of, it used to be the Periscope that was used all the time at the kind of LAN events back in the day that people would live stream the matches to. Yeah, Doug's like, look, get this match on the main stage next time around. And I believe there was also a reply from someone at Octane Esports who kind of is organising the Boston Chanters event, which is coming up just before the New York Major for Major 4, where, well, hopefully you're going to get Doug's team rematching Clayster's team or whatever, get it on the main stage. That'd be good times because, well, this guy says very truthfully indeed, if Centre was playing, that's 200k viewers very easily indeed. And I wanted to just mention this real quick here from Prestinni because he points out, well, some of the things that were mentioned in this, well, before the major began here for the community update number 3. Now, this I thought was a kind of interesting one. Firstly, just to mention real quick, because we'll talk about the Major 4 qualifiers here in a second, but like people said there was like a month-long break between this and that. I think it was meant to be 3 weeks. They've reduced it now to effectively 2 weeks, but it's 2.5 weeks. It's 2 weeks until they begin, but then, of course, today's Monday, and then we've got to wait until Friday for the matches to start. You guys know what I mean. The other thing I thought was kind of interesting here, though, was deciding LAN locations, where the CDL has a bidding process among the teams who submit applications to host a LAN. The CDL reviews them, then decides, and then gets to planning the event. So I guess that's what teams will try and do next year. Whether London, or, I mean, I'm sure Paris doesn't even want to bother, but yeah, whether London's, through the bidding process or whatever, or other teams, other organisations, other cities might well try and get involved. The CDL reviews them and then decides. So thought that was a lot of interesting insight, but yeah, most things that were said in this were relatively tame, to be honest. This also from Seattle Surge thought was kind of funny. Step 1, perform well in the qualifiers, for example, 5-0, as Minnesota Rokkr did, and then do more of the same on LAN. No comment on that one, right? Saying that, okay, Minnesota, they're effectively onliners, because they were trying to joke about right here how exactly did Seattle become the Major 3 champions by being the best team of the event is effectively what they did. Now, well, Seattle Surge, they have this run, actually a relatively easy run, all things considered, for Major 4. So these are the matches, as Margin points out right here on the Reddit, and I thought this is a really nice way to look at them. The colours effectively, I believe, are, well, this kind of dark purplish colour is for the best teams, pretty much FaZe, Optic, Seattle, Toronto. Then they've got the kind of the green colour, which is the easiest teams, Paris and Los Angeles Guerrillas. The kind of, well, second from bottom teams, Boston, New York Subliners, London Royal Ravens, and then we've got Minnesota, Los Angeles, Florida Mutineers in the kind of pinkish hue. So, like, effectively, this gives some indication which teams have the easiest run, but also these numbers on the right-hand side here. So 11 for the Florida Mutineers is technically the easiest schedule, and I guess the hardest one is up here, probably 17, 18 or something, which is probably the Paris Legion. So Paris have a tough time. Of course, like, Paris being at the bottom, they are going to have a harder run more naturally, but yeah, their run is pretty difficult. There's a few teams with easy-ish runs, like if you play Paris, you're probably in for an okay time, as Optic do this time around. Seattle Surge, I think, don't have a too bad one. Florida Mutineers, to me, is actually pretty good. So they play Paris, they play London, Minnesota Rokkr, Subliners, and of course Los Angeles Thieves, which is not going to be incredibly easy by any means, but it's still easier than it could be, especially when points matter so much for these teams, right? If you're Mutineers and you've got a relatively easy run, you're loving life right now, because, I mean, it's going to be pretty difficult for you to move up the rankings if you don't have an easy run, because they're right now 10th, 110 points. If they get like one extra win here, 1 or 2 extra wins, then some other teams are getting, because they might have an easier schedule than some other teams do. Like, that could be a massively important factor down the line here for World Championship qualification when you look at the rankings like this. So if you guys want to pause, figure out what your favorite teams are playing, then, feel free to do that now before we move on to the next step, which is, of course, what these teams actually might look like going into the Major 4 qualifiers. Will they be the same? Clayster kind of tweets this out yesterday. The Batman signal is coming through. Don't know if he's kind of taking a shot at, well, maybe not taking a shot, but I think he's effectively impression farming it. He does literally tweet this out afterwards. Farming impressions take much, but it's honest work. So, like, he's probably just having a good time baiting around, but saying, okay, maybe people are calling, bat signal is out, they're calling me back to a team or something, right? Because Clay has said, like, of course, look, he wants to keep playing, he loves competing, he wants to give it a go once again, he wants to play next year if he can, or, well, this year if he can, and next year most certainly. If he doesn't get a spot next year, he's going to retire. That's effectively what he has said. Now, Rambo has a few thoughts on Clayster and where he might potentially go. People in this chat were saying, okay, maybe Los Angeles Guerrillas could be an option for Clayster, and actually we're saying maybe that actually could work out. So who knows if Clayster Clayster LAG or LAG Clayster could be a thing by the time we get to the Major 4 qualifiers, but also some thoughts to make in the reverse sweep, guys, about the possibility of many teams in the league making changes, because outside of probably New York probably aren't going to do anything now. They've kind of committed to their roster changes. They've got to hopefully this one works out. Paris, what's the point in them changing anything? But in fairness, they could potentially sell their players to other teams on the cusp if they want to. So they believe that outside of the top 4 teams, that being Seattle Surge right now, Atlanta FaZe, Optic, and the Toronto Ultra, all of the other teams might potentially make a move.
Frollo showed everyone that he definitely deserves a spot in the league. Whether or not, you think he had a bad series, it happens. I thought he played very well. I think he's better than a decent amount of starters in the league right now. And to just kind of run down the list, because we were talking about this before the show, of like basically every team who isn't in the top 4, right? Top 4 CDL standings should honestly be trying to make a change, especially all the teams that are like actually in the hunt. Because
anyone in like contention of making champs should be on the phone right now.
Which is like, I think it's the 5th, right? 5th spot.
I think it's everybody except New York and Paris right now. Honestly, I think New York is like pretty much out.
Yeah, they're chalked.
So, but that's still, I mean, that's 10 teams, right? And there's probably what, 5 of them that like obviously Optic's not going to make a change. Obviously, Toronto's not going to make a change. Obviously, Seattle's not going to make a change now. And FaZe for sure not making a change. So that's like the only 4 guaranteed, I think, that shouldn't make a change given their roster. But yeah, everyone else outside of that, like, I guess Rokkr's tough because they just made changes. I still think that team could improve personally. But yeah, everyone else should be on the phone trying to deal something, even if it's a challenger player. You got to make a move because right now you have no chance.
If all the teams besides the top 4 that you just listed actually want to try and win the event, not just go and like be competitive, maybe get a top 4, whatnot, they all should be trying to make a change.
Clay tweet. All right, what did Clay tweeted? Clayster tweeted. He said, Batman sign. He's being called. That's cool. What does it mean, though? What does it mean? Who's bringing him back? Already said he's not playing with New York. He wants to play on a team that has a chance at champs. Interesting. Actually, yeah, LAG would make sense, honestly. That would probably, honestly, from a team standpoint, that would probably make the most sense.
So who knows where Clayster could potentially go out of all those options, right? There's plenty of teams who've talked for quite some time about Florida Mutineers. Maybe they need a leader figure, but of course they probably don't need another made assault rifle, right? Which is, of course, probably why Clayster isn't going to go there. But Los Angeles Guerrillas, certainly, they're in a very precarious spot. I mean, just looking at the rankings right now, right? Of course, like, these teams, FaZe, Optic, Surge, Toronto, like, they're not going to make any moves. But if you look at London, Boston Breach, LAG, both of those teams have moved down the rankings significantly over the last few weeks. They might need a change because, like, the London team as it is right now, I don't know if they're getting Gizmo back. We don't really know on that front. Like, hopefully they do for the Major 4 qualifiers, I guess, from their perspective. But, if they don't, like, is this current team one that they think they can win the World Championship with? Because that's the thing, like, if I'm at LAG or if I'm something like that, if I'm at Boston, like, I'm not necessarily going to try and be here just to qualify for the World Championships. If I'm at Florida or Los Angeles Thieves, I don't just want to qualify, I want to win the entire thing. And if winning the entire thing means I've got to make a move or try and pick up 10th from Paris or whatever, then, maybe I'm going to do exactly that, or at least give it a go, because you might be on the cusp right now. You might need that extra push, that extra honeymoon period push to get you over the line to qualify for champs, but then actually forming a team that can win is another question entirely. LAG have very much been on the downtrend. They've barely put up any points in ages, right? So, like, I mean, I think their current roster as it is right now, if they don't make any moves, will probably not make the World Championship. I can't really see that happening because the other teams around them are looking rather good. Thieves as well, like, Thieves are still good. I mean, it's kind of incredible how they actually have behind, and we'll look at this in a few minutes time, but behind Optic and FaZe, they have the 3rd highest average placing of any team. They do, I think, get better on LAN, but you get a lot of points for winning these online matches, right? And they're probably not going to do that with their still SMG duo, not, in my opinion, being in a good place at the moment. They still get some decent results here or there. They still have some decent points, but that's questionable to me as to whether they can actually win the World Championship, because I kind of doubt it with their current roster, to be honest, when they play the best of the best with the best SMG duos in the game. So if Clayster does go anywhere, where's he going to go? You guys can, of course, let your thoughts be known on that in the comment section below. But as I say, Thieves, probably they're not going to make any moves either, just because that's kind of how they've done it so far this year. They're almost a Florida in the sense that they get a good result, a good enough result to keep the team together. Like, look, they showed some potential this past weekend. They beat Octane, of course. That's pretty impressive. They beat Minnesota. That's pretty impressive as well. But, you know, the fashion in which they lost to Toronto, a close series, but they didn't quite have enough. And, of course, they lost to FaZe as well pretty comfortably in winners round 2. But, yeah, Envoy seems to think, and I'm pretty sure their team thinks, okay, let's just stick it out for the rest of the year and see how this goes. But I'm still not convinced by the SMG duo on that team. I thought this is rather interesting here from Deserter. They come up with their power rankings after Major 3. FaZe stay number 1, Seattle number 2, Optic number 3, Toronto. I think those are the top 4 very clearly right now. Then Thieves are actually here at number 5, which I think is probably fair enough. I think on LAN, that might be justified. And there's no real move they can make to upgrade, so they probably stick together. But I certainly feel like Florida, Minnesota are kind of in a weird one, right? I mean, they've moved down 5 points in these rankings right after a tough major, despite going 5-0 in their qualifiers, because they really couldn't convert that onto LAN. And still, maybe attaches pieces of the pies around the corner, but and probably they don't want to make a move either. But teams like LAG, Florida, Boston, I think certainly, I mean, even Methods replies to this one saying, you know, it's very deserved having us 10th because right now we played absolutely horrible. And I think even Zuma said on the flank a couple of days ago that Zinni's pretty down bad right now after a tough result. So yeah, I think some of these teams not as many teams will make changes as maybe Aches and the guys were saying that they should do, because you know, of course, some of these teams believe their roster still has what it takes. But I think some of them certainly should. If you're Boston though, what do you do? Like, I'm not really sure many of these teams make sense for Clay to come into, because like, let's say LAG for example, like where does Clay come in for? Like, does he come in for Slasher? Like, that doesn't really seem to make that much sense to me, just because I feel like Slasher's the player that you probably want to build around if you're this team, unless you build another player into the roster, because I think Slasher with a good team, with a team that he believes in, can be a really solid force again, as we saw at Major 2, for example, when they won the entire thing. It really, to me, has been Asim and Gunless, and even Huke lately to a significant degree as well, that have been very underwhelming indeed. But I'm not really sure how Clayster fits into that, and is, you know, if you bring Clayster in for Slasher or Clayster in for Gunless, like, are you getting the best out of the rest of that team? Does Asim want to play with Clayster again after what happened last season? Maybe not. So I'm not really sure it's going to work out here, but I do feel like some of these teams will have to consider moves. Boston, for example, is a good one, I think, because they're on 130 points. I don't know how many points you're going to need to qualify for the World Championship. We don't really know what the number is that you should be aiming for, but 150 that Ravens have, I think will be good enough. I think 150 will get you in. 130 might well not do. And they don't play parity in these qualifiers. They don't have a free victory like some other teams will do. So difficult situation, interesting one. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Who will change? Will anyone change? Will Clayster get a spot anywhere? And just to finish out with this, as we kind of promised a couple of minutes ago, these are, as Jimmy Cake points out, teams ranked by average placement in this year. So this is excluding the kickoff and the pro-am, and it's FaZe number 1, Optic number 2, Thieves number 3, and 6th average placing. So I believe they came 4th, 6th, and 8th, so averages out to 6th. So actually on LAN, they're rather consistent. Now, the other teams that are rather below them, but honestly, it's so close around here because a lot of teams have very similar placings over the course of it, including those other events. So it actually looks like this. So FaZe still number 1 just about, then Ultra, then Thieves, because Thieves have looked rather good in these kickoff and pro-am tournaments, and so have Ultra in fairness, because of course they won the first one, and then Optic are at number 5. And the subliners move up from being, well, dead last in 12th here, excluding those events, but actually, well, a decent, kind of respectable number in this situation. But very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on a like button, tell us your YouTube gods, this is a good video, others like you should see it as well, and I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you as always, take care of yourselves, and I shall see you next time.